Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert's Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Alright, I wasn't going to do this video because I've been doing all the previews and reviews of the major shows for TNA, New Japan, so far this year. And this is the NXT Vengeance Day preview, so I wasn't going to do it. I was going to do it, coming back and forth on it, so thought I'd go ahead and do it real quick here and kind of get some opinion out there before the show tonight. Alright, so we have 5 matches, which is cool. You know, I know back in the day, in the NXT TakeOver days, that was kind of the sweet spot for these NXT shows. NXT over the years has kind of, the level of talent, I think, it's like once somebody gets hot in NXT, they immediately get called to the main roster and get lost. It's not like back in the day with the NXT TakeOver where you had guys there for 4 or 5 takeovers and they kind of built that up and then eventually got called up. Now it's like they just call people up left and right. But overall, this show I think is going to be an okay show. It's not going to be a great show. It's not going to be one of the best shows ever. It's going to be good, I think. First match, we have Tony D'Angelo taking on Dion and Lennox. This actually goes back to the Dark State and D'Angelo family days, where they actually feuded last year at Stand and Deliver. That's when Lorenzo Staxley walked out on D'Angelo family, and that gave the victory to Dark State. Tony D'Angelo took some time off. I think he was hurt or something, and he came back, and he's feuding with Dion Lennox. I mean, I can go either way on this match. I'm going to pick Tony D'Angelo to win. I think because of Dark State and all the people can get involved that will get involved, I think Tony D'Angelo kind of getting that come from behind win here, kind of quick roll up, and then as everybody hits the ring, he ducks out kind of thing. Next up, we have a street fight with Jaida Parker and Blake Monroe. Now, I understand when we're booking these shows, typically you have a few matches and then you put a gimmick on it and stuff. Here we go straight to a street fight due to all the attacks backstage and outside in the parking lot and whatnot. They've only had a couple matches. They had a house show match back in December of last year. Then they had another house show match, one-on-one, where Parker won in January of this year. And then they had the NXT TV show match, weekly match, where it was a double countout. So beyond the attacks backstage, there really hasn't been anything that would make this a street fight. So it's like, you just jump to a gimmick like that. It's like, okay, makes sense. Do I think it's going to be the greatest street fight ever? No. But that's cool. I think both of these, Jaida Parker and Blake Monroe, are great wrestlers. I think they are capable of putting on a hell of a match. Should they both kind of be involved in some of the title matches? Yeah, definitely. But you obviously can't put a title on everyone. I know that. So I'm kind of curious how this is going to progress in this street fight with these two. I actually have Blake Monroe coming out as victor. Any other match, I'd pick Jaida Parker. But I think with Blake Monroe, it's almost like she came in with such fanfare because of past wrestling for AEW that they wanted to push her to the moon, and then all of a sudden they just dropped her like a hot potato. So I honestly think it'll actually hurt the development of Blake Monroe if she loses this match, to be honest with you. But I got Blake Monroe winning this. Next up, we have Lola Vice and Kelani Jordan in an NXT Underground match. These NXT Underground matches, basically they're Josh Barnett. There's a rip-off of Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. Basically, it's basically just the mat, take the ropes down, and they go out there kind of MMA style. They're interesting. They're fun. I enjoy some matches like this. Both of these, Kelani Jordan and Lola Vice, have the ability to do matches like this. Some people don't. So I think this is going to be a really cool match, and I actually have Kelani James winning the match here. Next up, we have the NXT Women's North American title line. We have champion Izzi Dane taking on Tatum Paxley. Obviously, the history these two had with the calling kind of put this match together. And with Izzi Dane having a 58-day title reign, this is the fourth longest. I think Izzi Dane constantly kind of putting down Tatum Paxley, like she's better than her a lot, and the way they separated from the calling and everything. I actually think Tatum Paxley is going to get a little run here with this. And I think it's going to be one of those things, kind of like that D'Angelo match, where you'll have the calling out at ringside, and you'll have kind of a quick little 1, 2, 3 by Tatum Paxley to get the title, and everybody kind of decide themselves. And I think it'll actually extend this feud into maybe at Stand and Deliver next month, having some type of gimmick on him for these two. But I got Tatum Paxley here winning the NXT North American title. The main event, we have the NXT title on the line. Joe Hendry taking on Ricky Saints. When Ricky Saints first came in, I just love how he came in with such hype and such, the crowd chanting, about Tony Khan, and it's like, come on, guys. I mean, Ricky Saints is a good on the mic. He's just a little small for what you would look at as a main event type of champion or wrestler. He's kind of he's smaller than Shawn. It's like he gets kind of the Daniel Bryan vibe, where he can run a company, he can be the main event guy, but if you look at WWE, he doesn't fit as the main event kind of guy to me. He's more of that IC kind of guy, that kind of The Miz kind of, which I know The Miz has had world title reigns, but I think The Miz, John Morrison, those kind of guys look like kind of, they're not mid-card, but they're upper mid-card. They're not the elite main eventers, but they're like that next step, and I would put Ricky Saints into that. Joe Hendry has the mouth to be that kind of main event guy. His in-ring ability doesn't lack much, but I think he's kind of one of those guys. I've always liked him, even back prior to the pandemic when he was in Europe wrestling, and I remember seeing him a lot there, and it's like, this dude's going to be something special someday. He just had the it thing. And then when he signed with Ring of Honor in early 2020, it's like, all right. And then the pandemic hit, and all that kind of fell through, and he ended up in TNA, and then on to WWE. He's been at WrestleMania against Randy Orton. The sky's the limit for this guy. And I don't think after 29 days you just take the title off of him. But the thing is, one thing if you notice about WWE, what they do is a lot of times in NXT, when somebody wins their second NXT title, they get moved to the main roster. And I got thinking about that. I'm like, that's kind of, is that real? Is that right? It's like I kind of look back, and if you look back at the title history of this NXT title, the last person that held the title, a second title reign, got moved up right after that, Obafemi. Trick Williams won the title on October 1st, 2024, on the debut on CW. That was his second title reign. He was called up to the main roster soon after that. If you go back to the previous two-time champion, Braun Breaker, he got called. That was right around it was the Raw before Mania in 22 when he got the second title. He was called up not long after that. I know Carmelo didn't get a second title reign, neither did Ilya Dragunov, but some people do. I'm not saying everyone, but some. The ones that do. Tommaso Ciampa, Joe, Karrion Kross, Finn Balor. So it's like you look at Ricky Saints. Is he going to get a second title reign here, then drop it next month at Stand and Deliver, and then get called to the main roster the Monday after Mania? Do you have to do that with somebody like a Ricky Saints? I don't think you do. I think all this talk of how Tony fumbled him, it's just like I don't think Tony fumbled him, to be honest with you. Honestly, if it wasn't for the pandemic, Ricky Saints would have never been in TNA or in AEW. I mean. And I say that because Eddie Kingston and Ricky Saints were in NWA prior to the pandemic. They were pretty big names there. They were doing their thing there. And then when the pandemic happened, a lot of those indie companies like NWA and stuff took a hiatus. Well, AEW did the stuff at Daly's place because they own the arena. Just like WWE did the stuff in front of the, whatever it was called, when they had all the people on camera and stuff for the audience. Thunderdome. So they found ways of kind of working around the pandemic and still doing product. A lot of companies didn't. So that's when the Ricky Saints and the Eddie Kingstons came into AEW. there's not a reason for me to take the title of Joe Hendry here. Unless your goal is to move Joe Hendry up, and then technically they've done it before. Move him up with the title. Honestly, if you want Joe Hendry to be something and go back to Mania again this year, have him win the title, retain the title here, retain it at Stand and Deliver, and defend the title at WrestleMania because it's been done before. And then transition him into the main roster if you want. But I think both these guys will be the main roster sooner than later. We'll get the massive call-ups the Monday after Mania like we do every year. And then we'll have a rash of releases like we do every year. And then we'll have a rash of the WWE guys and the Evolve guys getting moved to NXT like we had the last couple of years. It's just always a rotation. And then people that get released will end up in TNA, AEW, on the indies, like we do all the time. Here's the thing about this ecosystem that is pro wrestling. People work on the indies. They get a chance at whatever company, bigger indie company. They get a chance at WWE. They get ID'd, or they get to the Performance Center. They get to NXT. They get all that training. Either hit the main roster or get released. They go back into the ecosystem. But now, when they go back to that ecosystem, that is the indies and stuff, they have that WWE training, which helps them on the indies, which makes them bigger on the indies, which either funnels them to TNA or AEW, New Japan, wherever. And then sometimes they come back, and then they do it again. So in order to have that ecosystem just keep rolling, the better WWE is, the better AEW is, TNA, all the indies. Wrestling on the indies, we've seen wrestlers make a living doing it. Some people like that, some people don't. As AEW has came into the ecosystem, that has taken a lot of that indie talent to another place. But it gives wrestlers another place to go. Do I think everybody that gets released from AEW or leaves AEW should go to WWE? No. Do I think everybody that leaves WWE should go to AEW? No. Is the AEW roster bloated? Yes. Is the WWE roster bloated? Yes. Do these two companies hire people that worked at the other company, hold on to them just so they won't go back to the other company? Yes. It's happened for years. It's always been a thing. So I think the better NXT is, the better the main roster is. And right now there is a disconnect with some people in the industry who have a national radio show on XM Radio. Bully Ray, who I'm talking about. And I listened to 20 minutes of the show last night. Maybe it was 10 minutes, whatever it was, of the replay of yesterday morning's show of him complaining about AEW for 10 minutes. Dude, you're a WWE contracted talent. Why are you bitching about AEW? I mean, that's wrong with me, you know. Whatever. This card isn't the end-all be-all card that it has been in the past, but I think it's going to be a good show. So I got Tony D'Angelo winning against Dion Lennox. I got Blake Monroe winning against Jaida Parker. I got Kevin James winning against Lola Vice. I have Tatum Paxley becoming your new NXT Women's North American Champion. And I have Joe Hendry retaining his title against Ricky Saints. Stay tuned to Rubber Sports Show. I'll get the review up later on this weekend. And we'll see what happens. In the next weekend, we have AEW Revolution. As always, thanks for watching Rubber Sports Show. Don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Rubber Sports Show, from the independent scene to the main event of WrestleMania. Rubber Sports Show, the YouTube leader in sports channel content.